out of high school almost 10 years ago, I never would have guessed that one day I would be standing at an event like this to give a speech. I hated school for almost as long as I can remember. In part because it was a public school and I've always had an alternative mindset, but also because my family life was so tumultuous, I did not see any point in even trying to focus on school. When I think about where I've been, and to see myself now as a straight-A student being asked to share my story, it still sometimes feels unreal. Like so many people, the details of my life can form its own novel. However, some specific events have had the most impact on the shape of my life today. Growing up, I was raised almost solely by my father in suburban Ohio, and he was the only constant family member I've ever had. He taught me to believe in my own capabilities as a person, to never be afraid to roll up my sleeves and do the hard work, and to always have the humility to acknowledge when help is needed and to accept it when it's offered. Unfortunately, he died very suddenly when I was 15, and I was flown across the country to California to meet my mother and live with her for the first time in my life. In those years that we did live together, we were not able to form the best relationship with me coming from such a dramatic situation. And we went our separate ways shortly after my 18th birthday. This led to my first and by far my scariest experience of homelessness. I was in an unfamiliar city, and I had almost no resources or friends to turn to. I was, and still am, so grateful for all of the help I received in that time, from strangers and from fellow homeless people. I didn't give up, despite my many fears, and I eventually hitchhiked from Modesto, California to Portland, Oregon, where there was a much wider job market and was finally able to find work. Fast forward to when I moved here to Newport about 2 years ago, where I found a much more affordable cost of living, and I was finally both able and wanted to enroll in school again. For the first time in my life, I am excited for classes, including an 8 a.m. biology lecture. And I actually enjoy stopping to talk with faculty members and instructors, whereas before I would have avoided them at all costs. Thanks to the generosity of donors like you, I have had a lot of the huge burden of both my living and tuition expenses lifted from my shoulders. This has enabled me to focus more on schoolwork and to be an active member of student government, 5J Kappa, the Equity and Inclusion Committee, and I'm hoping to found our new Gender Sexuality Alliance this year. The kid who dropped out of high school all of those years ago with a 0.026 GPA would have a really hard time recognizing the woman that is standing here today. Through adversity and difficulty, through emotional loss, as well as physical, through fear and the unknown, I have grown into someone I always hoped that I would be. I find myself looking forward to see how I grow and change as I move from the community college level and onto Portland State University, where I'm going to study architecture and sustainability. The acceptance and the outreach here at Oregon Coast Community College has been above and beyond what I could have expected, and I wish it had been possible to start school sooner. Words will never be enough to express the sincere gratitude I feel towards everyone that I have met here at OCCC, and I will always be grateful to the many wonderful people present here today for helping to make this possible.